there, I'm Tori Beach, a solo wedding videographer, and we are back again with another episode of I Do's and Don'ts, where I sit down with other wedding professionals to talk about the do's and don'ts of all things weddings. Today, I'm sitting down with my friend and a past bride of mine, Taylor Good, to talk about her experience as a bride and some of her do's and don'ts. Hey Taylor, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Tori. I'm so excited to talk about weddings.
Me too, and we did a wedding together. You were my bride.
Yes.
A couple years
Almost
back.
3 years ago.
Was it really?
Well, like 2.5, I guess.
Not only were you a bride of mine, but you're not, that's not all that you are. You are much more than that. And you're also a photographer, a wedding photographer, actually.
I am good photography. I was good photography co, but I just became an LLC. I got legit. Yeah. So no more co because you can't be a company and an LLC. Whatever. Rules.
Semantics.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
Now I'm just good photography.
You are. You're great photography. Dun, dun.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I wanted to talk to you because a couple of reasons. One, I love you and your energy, and also you don't hold back, and that's what I wanted. I wanted
this girl will run her mouth, is what you said.
Nope. Honest is what I'm saying.
Yes.
You're not going to sugarcoat stuff, and I think that's really important for future couples who are looking at getting married or already in the beginning processes, or maybe halfway through, and they're like, I'm feeling stuck. So I kind of wanted to talk to you about your do's and don'ts when it came to a wedding from the perspective of the bride. Bride and groom family, like it's your day. And you've given me a couple of really, really great do's and don'ts. I kind of want to start on the don't first, because I think this is really interesting. Your don't was don't do too many DIYs.
No,
sounds like you had a personal experience there.
It's September 2018, 2 a.m.
No.
I am hand fake calligraphying envelopes that are in the trash somewhere now, gone, and I did that so many nights, and like it wasn't worth it. The envelopes look great. I got compliments, but there are professional, amazing, talented people who didn't have to go to Hobby Lobby 15 times to buy gold pens. B, didn't have to guess what color the envelopes would be because they would just know. So I ordered 15 samples, messed up 50 of them. It was so much headache and so little savings, probably no savings if you really looked at it.
Yeah.
And I hated them by the end of it.
Oh no.
So I wasn't happy. I liked that I had pretty invitations or whatever, but by no means was what I did, the fake calligraphy that I learned off a YouTube video, that was not anywhere near what the calligraphers that I now know can do.
Yeah.
I wish I would have not DIY'd a single thing, because honestly, all of the things that I thought, I need to put, because I'm a very controlling person. I was like, I need to put my touch on everything. I need to make sure that it's all exactly the way I want. I had this vision and whatnot. There were a couple pieces that really the vendors took over, and it was the catering and the floral. And I didn't do the setup for them. I didn't have to think about it. And those were the best freaking parts. The food was so good.
Yes.
And it was just so nice. I had a vendor who knew what they were doing, cared about being there, and I just let them do it. I didn't try to control the situation, and it went perfectly. Whereas everything that I was trying to overtly control was falling apart and catching on fire.
Right. Was your reason for not controlling because you had so many experiences with all your DIYs that you're like, I just don't have the capacity for this? Is that, or was it like, oh no, I hired really great people and I automatically just trust them?
So I honestly, the biggest mistake I made was I really didn't get to know many of my vendors before I booked them because I procrastinated and then I didn't really get to know my vendors. I then felt pressured and rushed. And I think a lot of people, regardless of their timeline, feel so pressured to have stuff figured out because everyone's asking and wants to know. And, you know, do you have a date? Do you have a hashtag? What's going
But
here?
it's interesting because it actually goes right in line with your due. So that your due is to book vendors that you vibe with. But like, what would you say would be the best advice to give to someone on like, how do you try to get to know your vendors when you're in this hiring state?
The phone call that we had was probably the most extensive, like actual
Okay.
interaction with a vendor that I had. And I remember feeling so like at ease.
Okay.
There was no pressure. It wasn't
Right.
like you were like, hey, you need to sign by this time. You need to have it figured out for this and that. And like, you were so transparent and straightforward. And it just made, like, I felt comfortable.
Sure.
Whereas hindsight being 2020, some of the other people that I chatted with briefly, like the phone calls were brief and it was like, specifically with photography, it was like, okay, well, you have to sign within the next 24 hours if you want this price.
Right.
Lots of pressure, lots of just like decisions were made because I hung up the phone and I went, oh shit, like I got to get this done.
Okay.
Not, oh my gosh, I feel good. Like I feel like I was taken care of. I am a chatty person. So like if I could go back, I mean, I would definitely try to meet up with all of the vendors. If you can't do that, and with COVID times and everything, a Zoom call is sufficient.
Yes.
Like, I just think a little face-to-face is important, but at the very least, I think if you have somebody who is responsive to you, doesn't make you feel awkward. Like if you can get through a phone call without feeling like horribly awkward with that person, you're probably going to be okay.
Right. Right.
The other things that you can really do is, this is kind of like stalkerish, but you can vet them via social media.
Yes. Oh no, you should.
Yeah.
All
like,
your vendors.
And not just for the quality of their work, because I mean, realistically, you should be looking at all your vendors' work before you even narrow down who you want to talk to.
Sure.
Like you don't need to talk to every vendor. You need to figure out who you want to work with based off their skills and then go from there. Because I can't tell you how many people I have who have inquired with me and wanted like a bright and airy look. And that's just not the style of photography that I do.
Right.
I can edit that way, but it's not really what I love.
Right.
And I used to be like, oh yeah, I'll edit that for you, how you like it. And then I kind of realized, you know, that just means they're not for me and I'm not the right person for them. And they need to have the opportunity to get the right person for them. You want a vendor who's as invested in your wedding day as you are.
Yeah.
And that comes through in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Customer service being the biggest one, obviously, but other little things that they do as well.
Yep. But there needs to be cohesiveness within the team. And that is hard to know if you've never had everybody together in the same room. But I think that if you have that feeling from each vendor that they're there for you, you are going to have a team that is cohesive, that works together because everyone's goal is you. And, you know, and I think it's always so heartbreaking when I'm at a wedding and it's not like that. And I just don't think that's fair. So, you know, this due, I think, is more important than people may even realize, is that you, the client, the couple, needs to make sure that you like all of your vendors.
Yeah. Just because somebody's expensive, like, don't write that off. If it feels out of budget, that doesn't but they feel like the right person, don't write that off because chances are you'll regret it. Chances are if you try to DIY the thing that you don't want to pay that much for, you're not going to be happy.
Right.
And there's a reason that vendors charge what they do, because
Yep.
they're professionals, because they
Right.
know what they're doing. And the peace of mind that that brings is so just, you can't put a price on that.
Right. There is a lot to think about, and there's a lot of pressure. And I think a successful wedding is built on the backs of really great vendors. And it's up to you. This is your foundation. And that sounds like a lot of pressure, which I just said that like it's really stressful. But I think that if you can put in that work and put in that time and invest that, then you will have less stress down the road. And you will feel more at ease because you have, like you had mentioned, professionals who do these things. And, maybe instead of being up at 2 a.m. with a cramp in your hand because you're trying to, sign all of your envelopes, you could be hanging out with some friends or just like chilling or sleeping. You could be in bed.
Back. I'll never get it back.
Right. However, I will say I do love a little personal touch here and there. And I think some DIYs can happen, but I think you're right. Sure. Know your limits.
Well, and I think if you know what's important to you, like that's a really good place to start. A lot of people, I think, believe that you have to have this whole vision for your day figured out. And you have to know exactly what you want for everything.
Right.
Realistically, you just need to figure out and rank what's important to you. And when you're setting your budget, yes, obviously be realistic for what you can afford, but be flexible and think like those things that are less important, if you're willing to compromise on them or adjust, and you can shift some of that budget to the stuff that's really important to you, as opposed to, I think a lot of people default to, okay, well, maybe I can get a deal, or maybe I'll just book someone cheaper.
Right.
And ultimately, when you find the right vendor for you, it's like finding the freaking person for you. Like
soulmate.
One day of a relationship, yes. But honestly, for me, I am with my couples for quite a while because people tend to book their venue and then their photographer and then everything else. I think it's unrealistic to consider your vendors as background people. Yes, the best vendors at my wedding were really the ones I didn't notice that much, but the things that I noticed about them were the good things. I was like, oh, they're making this so easy for me.
Right. Vetting your vendors is really important. And I think, once you feel confident in your team, it's at that point that you can kind of let it go. One thing that you said that I think is the thing we're going to take away from this is collaboration. That you are working in collaboration with your vendors. Yes, your vendors are working for you, and they should work for you. But work with them, and share with them your ideas, and talk to them about your vision. And I even, as a videographer, am open to having couples send me examples and saying I really love this style. Case in point, you, Taylor. Having that little snippet from you was so fun for me to shoot your wedding, because I had a personality side of you that I got to see through something that was inspiring to you, or something that sparked an interest in you. And that for me was so fun.
You shouldn't have apprehension. You shouldn't be scared. You shouldn't be unable to communicate how you're feeling to your vendor, because I know people don't like feelings, but let me tell you, your wedding day is all feelings. It is 100% feelings. Emotion, logic, it's gone. Yep. You're going to cry over literal spilled milk if that happens. Your actual wedding day, you're not ready for it. No one is. You can't really explain to somebody what that feels like. It's going to feel different for everyone. Yep. And there's going to be emotions that are different for you than for other people. But you just have to know that some stuff will probably go wrong. That's events. But if you have the right team, if you have the right vendors, the important stuff won't go wrong. And the stuff that does go wrong, you won't know about it. It's not going to be a big deal. And if you've got the right team batting for you, you're going to hit a home run. I don't know. I tried to make a sports analogy.
That was so smooth. Oh. So smooth. Oh my gosh, Taylor, we could talk forever. But I love these do's and don'ts. I think that, those of you who are watching, just take mental notes of this, because you are going to run into this at some point along the process. Whether it's with a DIY that you're thinking, oh, I can do it, or a vendor backs out and you got to find somebody new. Like this is a process that's so key to your whole day. And Taylor, thank you for being you and for talking so candidly about this. It's super refreshing. I love it.
Hopefully a million people don't unfollow you after this.
They won't. No, they won't. In fact, I'm sure they're going to come back for more. But I know that you're on here as a bride's perspective, but I can't help myself. I am going to also be putting down all of the information for Taylor's photography business, because she is amazing as a photographer. And if you are watching this video and you're like, I get that girl, and her vibe is so fun, and like we could be best friends, then think about hiring her, because this is what we're talking about here. So Taylor, thank you so much for being here and sharing all your thoughts.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This was so fun. I love talking about wedding stuff. So
me too.
Anytime you want to talk more.
Perfect.
We'll do it.
Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you have questions about the things that we talked about, or if you have specific topics that you'd like to hear covered, or even hear from a specific wedding vendor, please feel free to leave those comments and suggestions in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be back for another episode soon. Thanks.